Hooray!
Yay! Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. It is 12 o'clock p.m. exactly on Thursday, July 30th, 2026. Welcome to the Main Street, Rhode Island virtual roundtable. Every building counts, creating your Main Street building inventory. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. I would love for everyone to please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat while we're doing this round today. We think maybe a slightly smaller group, summer, and since we're going to be learning about a tool, I think we really want to encourage the discussion and a little more informal atmosphere today. So please do introduce yourselves. Feel free to keep your camera on, and just note this is being recorded. So before we start, thank you very much to our sponsors. We've instituted a new what we're calling a corporate membership for Main Street. Really looking for any organizations that want to support all of our work here and recognizing our first Main Street corporate sponsors here. If anyone knows of anyone who might be interested in joining us as a corporate member to really help us advance our work, please let us know. And for anyone who's new here today, Main Street Rhode Island is the Main Street coordinating program for the state that is aligned with Main Street America. And Main Street America has pioneered this approach to revitalization and commercial district economic development for Main Streets, downtowns, village centers and other such walkable traditional commercial districts through what they have named the 4 points approach. It's place-based, comprehensive, and community-led. These are the 4 points. And the more that you're with us, the more you will learn about all of them. But the idea is that all four of these aspects of place need to be intentionally worked on in a single place for that place as a commercial district to be successful. So, kind of the foundation of what we're doing today. And to do that, we're very excited to welcome two members of the staff of Main Street America. Miriam Parson, she'll be our primary presenter today. She is our primary liaison as a new coordinating program here with their network. And we're also joined by her colleague, Jackie, who I guess we'll be monitoring the chat. So welcome to both of them. Thank you so much for being here to teach us today, because the real guest is the BOOMS tracker, which is BOOM stands for Building Opportunity on Main Street. It is the tool for doing and keeping and updating a building inventory, which they're going to talk to us about right now. So with that, I'm going to stop my share and turn it over to Miriam to share her screen
Thank you.
and just say, welcome everyone. Please introduce yourself in the chat.
Wonderful. Do we have a clean view?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I'm utterly delighted to support Main Street Rhode Island in launching a new coordinating program. We have 47 coordinating programs across the country now with Rhode Island. And so we support states and regions to deploy the Main Street 4-point approach. Today, we're going to talk about how a building inventory supports your revitalization, your economic development strategy that you develop through the 4-point approach. While this is about learning a tool for doing a building inventory locally, we want to get started with why is this important? How does it help you? How does it build off your asset map, which is from a previous webinar, but I'll touch on it just a minute. Then how to use the thing. This is a free software from us, but you can always just start with a local spreadsheet. Get into the software later as you clarify your work. And then how do you leverage this data, this map for partnerships, funding, etc.? And of course, we'll close with questions. I'm happy to stay after the hour if questions do get a little long. The reason we are so excited to work with all of you in Rhode Island and your communities is to deploy this 4-point approach, which is the strongest economic development strategy in the country for place-based and preservation-based economic development. This is preserving physical history in our buildings and spaces, cultural history in our spaces, and in our storytelling, in our unique heritage in each place, and creating economic strength for residents and locals. And we get into what that transformation looks like based on your definition and your drivers. So this organizes a revitalization approach, and we teach from there. Today, though, we're focused on a building inventory, knowing what your building stock is so that you can strategize for recruiting appropriate businesses based on your niche markets, whether that's niche customers or niche product demands. And so we're going to get into how to use this. But first, why is it important, impactful to do a building inventory? And then how do we do it? So just going to slow down a little bit here. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. Oh, Cranston joined. Hello. And my colleague Jackie will interrupt me with her voice because we are quite comfortable with each other, and I told her to interrupt me. So if you have any like urgent questions about the slide that we're on, please type them and we'll get them voiced into the room. If they shouldn't wait until the end, we'll be monitoring. All right. So, in order to decide what is our business retention and expansion plan, or how do we understand where there are opportunities to grow our housing supply locally? Housing is, of course, an issue to all of us across the country. We need to understand what we have. This does not need to be as detailed as your tax assessor's records. This is about together as a community group, a coalition of organizations, local government professionals, community members volunteering, understanding what we have so that we can offer it to interested developers and work with them to align with our local economic development strategy. And so knowing who the owners are, and you define what local means. Local might mean they don't live in your town, but they're in your state. Other times we have regional identities. I grew up in Northwest Connecticut in the forest there. And so like I would have considered myself local to you as a kid. Just you'll decide what local means to know your parcel owners conversationally. And then of course, if someone owns multiple buildings or they're sitting on multiple pieces of vacant land to prospect future opportunity, you can cultivate that buy-in to your use of the 4-point approach for place-based, preservation-based economic development. So knowing what you have so that you can talk to your neighbors and stakeholders about using property for stronger economies, stronger local economies. We also build readiness as a collective, not just the individual building or property owners, not just a local development plan. It's also the conversational readiness so that when a developer comes into town, we're able to talk to them, or we can attract a local developer who has more of a cultural affinity for this place and push for aligning with design standards to maintain the history and culture of your business district, your downtown. That's one of the things we teach. And one of the 4 points is entirely focused on design. And we'll get into that in future curriculum, but we want owner involvement in the revitalization efforts that are scaffolded on the 4-point approach because it's the most successful preservation-based approach in the country. Getting that owner involvement means speaking to the owners, and a building inventory is an excuse to speak to those owners. And then I mentioned a business retention and expansion plan. So you can say, oh, this space could satisfy these types of businesses. let's keep an eye out, or let's talk to the ecosystem of entrepreneurial organizations and attract one to our downtown. It's also crucial to name culturally significant buildings or places, not only those that are officially landmarked through the legal process to put a historic landmark protection on a building. The cultural preservation is why we attract visitors for that tourist infusion to business revenues. So we want to maintain the uniqueness, the niche culture that visiting offers. And then, of course, as we've started to discuss, identifying potential housing or other priorities. But we know right now, Rhode Island, more than much of the country, but of course, the whole country is looking at housing. And, this has been a priority for Main Street America, too. We published an At Home on Main Street report about how to target housing development in Main Streets, especially upstairs. So, housing is a concern in 87% of Main Street participating communities, and 75% there's enough supply, there's enough housing for that demand. But we have vacant buildings. We especially have upper floors that are vacant, and living above a shop is a classic American experience and is an international experience. And so um, the 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 draw to live downtown is already embedded as we just need to develop those upper stories. And so knowing what we have so that we can speak to local developers or appropriately aligned developers is why we gather this building inventory data. So we're going to get into a little more about why, so you can hear from across the country how Booms building opportunities on Main Street, how this data and mapping software has already assisted states and local towns who participate in the Main Street approach. We recently did several focus groups, and so I'm going to share some direct quotes. Let's see. I think I will read one or two from each slide. Today I'm going to read the bottom one here. Once Boom's data is populated and current, so you'll keep it current by updating it once a year, we can go searching for vacant buildings that might be a great space for food vendors. And vacant churches might be great adaptive reuse for daycares. There's an immediate need within our state departments to have this data funnel straight into other products, other uses for buildings, because of course the greenest building is the existing building, and we want to preserve the cultural history represented by those spaces. A couple more here on how Booms helps your economic development hyper locally, your downtown with your team in your village or your municipality. As we're standing looking at a building, because this involves walking around with your group using your iPhone, sorry, whatever phone you have, pardon me, but using the software on your phone. As we're standing looking at a building, someone will pull Joe aside, or myself, or one of the staff members aside and say, who do I need to talk to? I want to put my business in this building. And to see something that immediate happen, that's why we're there. This is why conducting a building inventory is crucial, because it catalyzes conversation about being that connector. A Main Street team working with the Main Street approach, those 4 points and lots of our training, that's what we do. We train. They're often connectors. Primarily, you don't need to be an expert in small business entrepreneurship. You're connecting with those who are experts who can cultivate appropriate businesses for your niche demands, your market demands locally. This one, I put all the quotes in because they're so beautiful. Booms data is used as funding leverage, absolutely. And for different funders, I've spoken a little bit here about attracting appropriate developers who can align with your design standards, align with your cultural, preserving the local heritage, local history. But, having some of this information gathered and collected and synthesized does kind of set up some of these places for more easily accessing other funding sources to then achieve the original goals of this whole project: decreasing vacancy, supporting small businesses, attracting new businesses. That's core to the Main Street approach, along with making a place livable, like thrivingly livable for local residents. And that, pardon me, I need some water. And then, of course, bringing in tourist infusions. I want to read the bottom here that, Boom's data, doing this inventory and keeping it up to date, helped someone make the argument that, hey, this is a huge opportunity. These places and the people in them care about their downtowns. We can keep this going by investing in this group that's doing the grunt work of economic development versus the flashy stuff like renovating the several floors above a storefront and advertising the housing as a success per that development. The legwork beforehand is where the Main Street team comes in, and a building inventory is one task within that work. Promoting the district is something that comes up quite a lot, where you can celebrate reduced vacancy over time. So, regardless of where you are in your activation of using the Main Street approach, get a baseline now so that you can look back at incremental success, because it's really hard to celebrate one building or excellent new partnerships that are conversational, not with a big splashy event and other visuals. And so you want to create your baseline to be able to show progress to new funders, show progress to community members to believe in the Main Street work continuing. We've talked a little about attracting niche businesses that serve your local customer profiles. One of the services we provide is a lot of data about local market profiles. And then unifying the marketing message. The promotion point of the 4-point approach is about a unique story that unifies your business district so that all businesses are lifted up and promoted for attracting visitors and for making it the third space that locals want to spend time in, increasing foot traffic to increase the likelihood of spending in our local businesses. I have to actually move my little mute button here 1 second to see what I'm doing. Okay, we're going to stick it up there. Oh, and yes, this is a huge win we've heard a few times. A few indicates much more because we're nationwide, thousands of participating communities. Your data, that map, helps explain to local government the context for advocating for zoning changes, advocating for development limits. Building height is a very common one so that you don't end up with a towering hotel in the middle of your historic downtown that's all 2 stories and 3 stories. And then 2 case studies here before we open the Boom software itself. I want to ask just briefly, is there anything in the chat that I should pause for?
Nope. Nope, you're good.
Okay, great. I just was looking down at my time and we are perfect on time. Excellent. So Virginia participated in this recent focus group of how is Boom's being adopted in a locally useful way, not just giving Main Street America nationwide data to show that there could be scaled investment and funding opportunity for reducing vacancy nationwide. The local advocacy for local and regional funding is already happening. So the Appalachian Regional Commission drives a lot of development investment, similar to how a lot of our regions, actually, I think all of us have oh, of course I'm going to forget it when it's in the moment. Anyway, we all have a regional planning commission that receives federal funds, then distributes it based on construction priorities. This is similar for, up and down Appalachia. ARC couldn't find enough projects to spend their money. And so the Main Street programs are using booms, and that is helping find those potential projects. So you had to package the opportunity in a visual way, not just a spreadsheet of data. And so Booms provides that visual map to attract different financing partners. And ARC was ready to finance, but needed to identify matching projects. And there are these conversations across the country. MSA has a similar partnership with a third party that has funding that targets certain areas. It's very normal for it to be regional. And so you want to package your building inventory to have funding conversations. And then in West Virginia, the doing the building inventory isn't just about having a map. It's about these conversations with building owners, parcel owners, if it's vacant land, building that trust and participation in your Main Street program so that they're understanding the promotion impact of working together as a district to promote the uniqueness and attract local customers. And you can, the Main Street Group is often not the expert, but the connector. How can we find renters or buyers to transform spaces? And we have a community plan for that revitalization. Point Pleasant, West Virginia attracted 30K just recently. And that may not sound like a lot to a lot of us, but this is a really small town in the mountains. And this was a significant private investment as to complement their public investment. And then an example I love that I made sure to add here is that their Booms map helps them talk to city council and make the case to build a vertical parking garage so that surface lots can become housing or mixed use, repurposing land for the priorities in our economic development. And I just want to remind us that a building inventory can be an asset map. And I'm going to get into showing you the data stack, the data, um, uh, the questions that you answer that are attached to each building or each piece of land so that you begin to see your asset map visually alongside it being a map of occupancy and vacancy and opportunities. So just reminding us here, 3 models we went through for how to think about assets. Sometimes it's cultural, so the organizations, festivals. Sometimes it's people. And of course, from me, you're going to hear, do all 3 of these. They're all complementary and they layer together. And each of them will curate to a different funder or partner or a recruitment conversation. So of course, we gather the stories of our history from local people and what they're passionate about and how they want to support taking action so they can be funneled into your different committees for that Main Street approach. And then, of course, the storytelling and community engagement so that we're gathering intergenerational stories. And that helps us identify, oh, this is another niche we need to celebrate at the old mill site on the river that's now an XYZ, but we can celebrate memories that reach back into my grandmother's grandmother because she remembers. So it's still an asset map, even while it's software and you're plugging in data, it is a tool for your local economic development strategy. I am going to show just a couple images of what this thing looks like. So you have some introduction. Then I'm going to close my slides and move over to the Booms tool on our website itself. And again, building opportunities on Main Street. So the homepage looks like this, where on the left you can start to see that there are names of towns. You only will access your own Main Street district, and defining those boundaries is something you do in collaboration with your coordinating program, so MSRI. Then, oh, here it is here. Yeah, you'll log into your own. You can't see anybody else's. And staff, we can't edit your data unless you directly tell us to help you fix something. So when I log in, I'm not going to be able to touch any entries. I can just show the software. We just like to share that from a security standpoint so you know your data is yours to touch. Once you're in, it's as simple as clicking this button, collect inventory, and then clicking on each building or land parcel. And then we enter answers to questions. We have 2 versions. There is the parcel survey to describe buildings and vacant land, then the business survey to describe building occupants and understand what kinds of businesses are there already so that you can see your mix and understand what your market data is telling you to add onto it based on local demand, regional demand. So it's wonderful to do both. I think many may only be ready for the business survey, and I'm going to show how that's separate and does not need you to do a clear boundary. If you're not ready to define your Main Street yet, do the business survey and get to know the businesses you want to work with on using the Main Street approach for collective promotion and a collective plan, collective meaning you're forming an organization from local government, business owners, community groups, nonprofits, institutions like a college, bringing people together to work an economic development strategy. Okay, great. I'm going to show these two examples. I'm going to show Iowa Falls, even though it's not in New England, because they are the strongest adopter. They have the most data in booms. And so you'll see like really full maps. I want to show that quality example. And then in Winooski, Vermont, they have 89% complete in their booms inventory. And so I want to just show a New England example. As always, there's a historic mill on the river. There's some familiar territory for Rhode Island. And then I'll show the Booms for Business, which is just a form without using the map, but it will populate the map with businesses regardless of where those are. It doesn't have to be in a defined main street. And I think that might be useful in Rhode Island as you're getting to know your district businesses and shaping how you want to work with Main Street. So I'm going to exit my slides here. Oh, but first I'll pause. Anything in the chat I should pause for?
No, not that I'm seeing yet.
Thank you very much. I should just trust you to interrupt me if there is something. Let's get into booms here. Okay. So this is what it looks like when you are on Booms-Tracker-. We're a subsidiary of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And then ArcGIS is the standard for GIS software for the last, I want to say 30 years, but possibly more. Let's call it 30. So with this top software nationwide, we, Main Street America, or just over 2 years ago, built this interface. When you grab an account and log in, you'll see welcome back. I just want to note a really frustrating quirk. Software has bugs. We're working with the developer to fix this bug. But right now, sometimes you log in and then it refreshes this page and you see another login button here instead of welcome back. If you have another login button, sorry, you have to log in yet again and then be welcomed back to access the map. Once you have access to the map, you can search for your own place. Oh, of course, I'm going to spell it wrong. This is why I had it open in two tabs. So let's go to Iowa Falls first. And you can see here, you're only allowed to log into your own data, but your state can see by a coordinating program all of the data in their state. And that's a way to get assistance as you're using booms. And most often this looks like walking around in a group of volunteers on a Saturday with your phones out, talking about buildings from the sidewalk, and then noting, making some follow-up task notes around who should we find? We don't know this owner, or, oh, this business is doing great. We should involve their building owner too. Okay, so here's a quick example. I'm going to make it slightly smaller to help myself navigate here. Wonderful. So you're in your account. You can download your data at any time so that you can share it into you can share it in a non-map interface if you just need like a spreadsheet to sort and play with on your own terms. But in the map, collecting your inventory. Oh, it's loading slowly. Pardon me. Great. So when you draw your boundary on, this is our Main Street district, which means your business district, not your entire town or your entire neighborhood. This is our business district. Within your boundary, our software consultant will load your parcel data um, from public tax data. And then you click this orange tab over here to enter information. You can see I'm locked out. I can't change your data. You own it. But let's find one that has some data collected. Oh, it's a little small over here. Pardon me. I was opening different windows yesterday and got this bigger, but in this moment, it looks to be small on the left. Oh no, here we are. Okay. This is a little bigger to read. Pardon all my tabs. So you'll enter what you know is their building. You can see that as you walk around. Can we see how many floors are upstairs? They were able to see that this is fully occupied. guessing the square footage just based on the footprint, what you can estimate when you're standing there and multiply. And then, of course, if there were multiple floors, you'd be just multiplying it by two or three or whatever. And what's it used for? This is probably the most significant um, checkbox here. Is this a business? Is it educational? Is it religious? Is this residential? But it's in our business district. And so we want to account for the housing opportunities in our business district. Mixed use in different ways. How many businesses are in there? And then for facade grant advocacy to your local government, as one example, you can document how many of these need repair, and it's really obvious from the outside. And so we can take that data to local government for funding that supports nonprofits or supports businesses themselves. Culturally significant. They said no on here because this is a local definition of the people doing the inventory. We're not talking just about the historic landmark placard on the outside of the building. And then you can make notes, right? What do we know about the history? And this is like one of the most delightful pieces because you're collecting your asset mapping information, the stories. I'm just going to go back to that slide for a second. Actually, no, I'm not because it's not loading. Pardon me. But this data is your ownership and you keep it up to date. I think for a lot of groups, it's every 2 years is what's realistic. Or, oh, there was an obvious change. You know, that building was renovated and activated and now is a mixed use with housing above. Let's get it entered. Let's update the parcel record in our boom since you're just doing one thing. Oops. So this is Iowa. There was another piece I wanted to show in Iowa. Your dashboard. This dashboard is also what you might share with local government or with developers, seeing upper floors of vacancy, seeing the opportunity, or ground floors of vacancy. Oh, we could attract 4 businesses right now. Let's look at what these spaces are ready for, or what they might need, or if they need to be white boxed because they have been vacant for a long time. It lets you target your Main Street goals in your project plan for using the Main Street approach. Here is Vermont, Winooski Community Partnership. They are 87% complete. The orange ones are the ones that have data. Oops. Oh, pardon me and my mouse. Okay, stop. So this one I especially wanted to show because of the classic New England infrastructure here. Is it going to let me click on it? There it is. So this is a mixed use building that I believe used to be a mill. The Woolen Mill Associates still owns it, but now it's mixed use with commercial and residential. And so getting that historic data, but you don't always end up filling out lots of the comments. We all know what this thing is. We're not going to tell a community story, but you can. Oops, where's my mouse? And that's where we go to collect
Hey,
inventory.
Miriam.
Yeah. Thank you for interrupting.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, Jillian had a really good question about if does the 0 businesses just mean they haven't entered the business info?
Yes, this is for the business inventory form, which I'm happy to move to. They have not entered it.
Okay,
Let's
because
click on
certainly, yeah,
this.
it's a business district. I'm assuming they have businesses there. We just haven't,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, entered that information. Okay.
So I'm just going to move to that since we're in conversation here. So okay, so there's a quirk when I'm logged in as staff, not when you do this. There's a quirk where I need to go over to an incognito window to show you the business survey. You will see it right when you click the button at the top of your account. So here is the business intake survey, which like typically is done by the community group talking about their Main Street district. But it's not bound to a district boundary. And so this could be a statewide Rhode Island project. I know there's a coalition of Black-owned businesses that have been in our cohort. who could start with a wide berth of representing businesses. I also know there are some municipalities that have multiple main streets in them, and they may want to work collectively to do a business directory, even though later they might split into multiple main street groups. So you can enter the business name, location. Here is a quick interface to find it if you don't know the address, but you know where it is.
Oh, hey,
And then,
Miriam.
yeah.
A couple things. We do have a question about, can you explain what the term white box means? And then also, I don't think we're seeing the survey window right now.
Oh no. Are okay. Are you seeing an orange window that says building a complete business directory?
No, I'm seeing at the top, Booms Tracker, businesses
Got
tab
it.
is highlighted, and then we're seeing the map of the districts.
I betcha it's because it's in an incognito window. So I'm just gonna go over to that. This one. Thank you so much for interrupting. So we get a quality webinar here. Do you see orange and business directory?
Yes.
Wonderful. So again, I'm going to talk about what Whitebox is in just a second here. For the business directory, you don't have to have um, a map set up in the Boom system. It may be too early. You haven't gotten the team together to define what your map will be to capture an appropriate business district, but not your entire village, because you don't want to enter data for all of the residential. Um, and here it's just business name, location, mapping tool. Do you know if that business owns the building or not? So again, this is an opportunity to build trust with stakeholders to keep working with your economic development strategy, where you might go in and talk to them for just 5 minutes of like, hey, we're going to promote all of our businesses, and so we're logging them into a tool. Can you tell us how long you've been here at this location? And, hey, we have all these building types. Does this one sound most accurate for you? Because there's only so many categories. Um, Full and part-time. These are all optional. So whatever you're comfortable with based on your relationship with the person, the business owner you're speaking with. Again, they may not want their names out there. It depends. And then these are the directories we're forming, local, regional, and national. So Rhode Island might want to keep their regional directory open. And there's a future where we imagine this also being a Main Street tool that it can be embedded in public sites. Like here is Main Street Woonsocket, and so here is a map showing our businesses with their operating hours, so you can promote things like First Fridays, etc. And then any photos. So this is meant to be quick and dirty to do as many businesses as possible in your downtown or in your neighborhood if you're in a city. And this does not require you to have the mapping tool set up in Booms. You can just use this form. I'm going to go back to sharing my slides while I answer the question about whiteboxing. So I am not an architect, but I used to work in green building. And so here's my understanding, but others in the room might have different expertise and are welcome to speak. White boxing is when a typically a business space, but it can be for housing too. A business space hasn't been used in a while. It needs to be cleaned up in order to show it to prospective renters. And so it's essentially just like scrubbed, painted white on all surfaces, and make sure the floor is clean, like there are no ADA issues. And so you're essentially literally making a white inside that is uh, a blank canvas for a business to come in and imagine. But you're also able to show off things like, hey, there's a food certified kitchen ready to go in this one, versus over here, we have back rooms if you need to be assembling product, as well as having your front room for sales. It's essentially a blank canvas to show. Jackie, you have a little more experience in this, so I'd welcome your comments too.
Yeah, no, I think you got it. It is essentially like Miriam said, just bringing a building up to its its ability to actually be used. And so that way, if you have a business owner who's interested in a space, but they're like, I don't want to have to deal with installing, you know, lighting or updating the electrical or finishing the ceiling. You know, a lot of these vacant buildings often are missing walls and ceilings. And so it is bringing it up to a condition where somebody could theoretically walk in, rent the building, turnkey, and only worry about building up their actual business assets within. So, yeah, it's bringing it up to a place of use.
Beautiful. I see
Miriam, we do
the
have a
chat.
couple other. Oh, go ahead. Yep.
Excellent. Nope, your turn. Go ahead.
Um, yep. I was just going to say in the chat, looks like one question about once the boundary has been entered, does the boundary have to be approved by Main Street America? And can the boundary be modified?
I believe it's approved by your coordinating program, Main Street Rhode Island. And yes, it can change over time. We have been doing some research into like of everyone who's in Boom so we can like easily see all these boundaries. What's like a typical size so that any who are too small or too big could have a conversation with their coordinating program about adjusting to make sure it's really focusing on your business district, since that's what our economic development strategy is for.
And
What
Miriam,
was your
correct me
specific
if I'm
question?
wrong, but the way it's set up, the district has to be contiguous, right? That I think is like the
Yes.
only um, real requirement that I saw.
Yes, exactly. It has to be a boundary that can close, not two boundaries.
No gerrymandering.
Well, it can be like it can
Can
have
be
little like
gerrymandered.
yeah,
Yeah.
like spurs or whatever, but it has
Okay,
to all be connected.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it
yeah.
is okay. Is it not that if there are a couple of residential properties within that district,
Yeah,
you
that's
just kind
fine.
of skip over them, right? Like,
Right. And this is
yeah.
what I wanted to share. This is in Miami that has very new my Main Street co groups, committees. And Coconut Grove is lovely, but they drew their entire neighborhood boundary versus their business district boundary. And this is just way too much residential that will dilute the focus on their couple business sections. And so that we're encouraging them to probably redraw it with like w the one street, like a main, oftentimes like the larger driving street between the two clusters. And so that's why I would look gerrymandered because it might look like a bubble and then a line and then the other bubble, but it's the focus on their businesses.
Miriam, just one question about that. I understand the rationale for that fully, but is part of what MSA recommends to local districts to encourage housing development immediately outside their business districts so their businesses have more regular customers, more of a captive audience for their services? Is that often part of a Main Street revitalization strategy in the MSA
We
playbook?
We are not housing experts, but we do see the economic development opportunity of infill housing, whether that's upstairs getting activated or that example in West Virginia of transforming parking lots into an attraction for a mixed use developer, housing developer. But the 4-point approach is built around a wide range of issues, not even though I know for all of us, housing is a top issue and has been for a lot of years. The issues that we typically are most focused on are small business development but like the strategies that we can do as a volunteer committee with like one staffer, is closer to how do we identify the niche market, like a clothing district and then a restaurant district, figuring out those themes to promote so that promotion brings in more foot traffic from the immediate radii of customers. We typically talk about three radii to profile market demands for this downtown. So it's a no, and no, we don't teach housing solutions exclusively, and it's part of economic development, but there's a lot of 4 point tactics to choose what your downtown and your team is ready to start with.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Can I ask a question about getting started?
Mhm.
Could you, in other words, Wickford, Rhode Island is part of the Main Street Coalition.
Mm,
And the town is very small and compact. And there are a couple of empty buildings. And I know a little bit about them. How would we
mhm,
get started? For example, there's a huge vacant store. We know that they can't do anything about it because the infrastructure is so awful. Then there's
mm,
another one that we have a high school, an elementary school that has been vacant for 15 years because they can't figure out how to get started to do something with it. I mean, it's been vacant. How do we, as a member of the group, approach these buildings? And Jillian, I want you to help me because also there are several other organizations in town that want to do something too and are making their own surveys. So Jillian, could you just walk me through the initial steps so we could begin this process in Wickford? Is
Well,
that
sure. So that's a bigger question other than the topic of today,
okay?
because we're today just talking about this small piece of like
Okay.
doing this inventory of all the buildings in your district, right? And just
Okay.
having the list and all the information about them so that
Mhm.
to even like even start to say, okay, that building, that elementary school, that's going to be our priority, or whatever.
Okay.
Um, I would
I
say,
don't want to
yeah.
sidetrack the meeting. I just want
Oh
to,
yeah,
and
and
I'll,
we can
okay.
definitely talk offline, but I'll
perfect
say for
question.
for the benefit of everyone on here, that really like the getting started is what we've been doing here in Rhode Island over the past year. You really have to start. You've got to get a group of people together who commit that you're going to use the Main Street approach to make your place stronger. And the communities that did participate in this first learning cohort, it did include North Kingstown, which includes Wickford. And so they're already like on their way to getting that group of people organized to take action. And for everyone else who's on the call, just know that we're already in the planning stages for the next learning cohort. And yeah, just if you're subscribed to our newsletter, you will be sure to hear about it.
Thank you.
And to Jillian's point, I just want to say here that this is about identifying who those stakeholders could be. And there's a couple models here on the screen, doing it based on power and their interest in economic revitalization or their interest in that specific building site. And then there are clusters where, based on this one project, like the high school building, who are clusters of people who care a lot. And on the top, you have internal stakeholders who are inside systems that can touch it, like local government. And then you have external stakeholders who might be community members or a developer from another place. Identifying who and why they'd be interested is a first step. But yeah, to Jillian's point, speaking with her about the bigger next step of working as a Main Street is a bigger conversation. I'd love
Miriam,
to hear more
before
questions. I'm just going to click. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
there was a question earlier, I just don't want to forget about it. It
Thank
was
you.
about the Vermont, yes, the Vermont example. Did the group in Vermont ask the businesses to add the information themselves and have them fill out the form?
Oh, really great point. Let me go to another tab to show the shortcut that you are illuminating. Okay, so here's Vermont. Share business inventory form gets you to the survey link. you share this link with people. You literally send this link around to businesses and they each can fill it out for themselves. And then you will get a spreadsheet of results that you validate. See approved businesses here. The Main Street group does like a final thumbs up click. And this is so that trolls and other weirdness doesn't get into your data. And so you'll make sure it's a real business and a real person and approve them to be part of your business inventory as well as your parcel inventory. But yes, at the top of your account, if and when you make one with a boundary, you'll have a business inventory form. Oh, pardon me, you don't need a boundary for this form. And I could just send out, I believe what I was told is I can just send out this. Well, it has, okay. Yeah, I don't know everything. So I'm just going to ask our team, which is Booms at Main Street. I'm going to ask the team whether there's a generic link not attached to a specific location, because any business data you enter has the location as one of the fields and will map to where the business is.
But Miriam, I think the question was focused on how was the information collected? Was it collected by a volunteer from the Main Street organization, or was it a form sent out to the business that they filled out and then sent back in some form to the Main
Or
Street group?
both,
Or
probably.
both,
Having done
right?
this myself, I'll say
Yeah.
ask the businesses and the ones that don't respond, you have to
Or is
go
there a
ask them.
recommended way? I'm sure people do it differently in different places, but there was a recommended approach to collect the information accurately and expeditiously.
Jillian is absolutely correct. She's got the recommended way. Mhm.
Yeah, and as we are starting to approach time, can you go back to the slide about the next upload coming in October? Because I think people may want just to track that, in their own calendars.
Thank you
So
very
this is
much.
where you would, if you're doing the parcel, you have to start with the boundary, right? And that is what you're asking for step one to
Yes.
use the parcel tracker. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So where it says please fill out this form, that's all over the Boom site. Um, and that's where you can say we'd like an account ourselves. Jillian can also assist just in terms of making the conversational connection. And you'll draw your boundaries, and then our next upload will add the parcels within your boundaries.
And you
So
do
this is a
that
good time.
for us, right?
Yeah, the GIS people do it. So we have like periodic, I think it's almost quarterly-ish. So that's why we named October here. And so this gives you a little time to think about what your district boundary is and work together to enter it if you're ready for that. And again, it can be changed later, but you might have a starting boundary with Jillian.
Great.
I want to move us to discussion questions, not to discuss them, but just to plant some seeds of how you're thinking about getting a team together to do a walking tour and enter data on your phones, and then send that business survey. And then those who don't reply, as Jillian said, visit them in person. What other questions, though?
Can you guys hear me?
The chat says 7. Yeah, thanks.
I had a question just about, I think I submitted the boundary. Now, immediately after submitting it, I was the person that asked if you could modify the boundary because I immediately was like, oh, should I have? Oh, God. So I'm happy to know I can possibly modify it. I didn't know how long it might take to be like approved, or I guess that's kind of a question for, I forgot. It's not the Main Street America possibly approving it. So,
Jillian will want, your coordinator would want to review it with you.
okay.
Um, the real thing you're waiting for is that quarterly update. So your change won't be reflected until October.
With all the parcels and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. And then additionally, I feel like you talked a lot about um like the businesses in the district, obviously important, but I wanted to kind of highlight how that what our team narrowed in on for our advocacy message, and we were looking at like the
Mhm.
matrix and trying to see what was applicable. And so we kind of started to run with a civic art district, and with that,
Beautiful.
that includes City Hall, one of the high schools in the city, and the fire station are all anchors at the very top of the street, and then the street goes down, and that's the actual like Main Street corridor that we're focusing on. But I did include the school, like the anchor part. I did include that. Along the
Yeah.
street is also like a post office and library, so just other things that kind of tie into the civic part. And so I just wanted your thoughts as to whether the city hall and stuff was important to include because they feel like the character, but not important, I guess,
Mhm.
maybe to the businesses, but at the same time, like they're not businesses, but I feel like they bring people to the area that could benefit the businesses,
Mhm.
you know?
I do know. Let me bring up, shield your eyes, because I know this can be dizzying. I want to go back up to the 4-point approach to reinforce what you're saying, because you're right on track. Where is it? There it is. So we've been talking today about the economic vitality quadrant. But so much of the Main Street approach is celebrating historic character. It's defining assets that would attract locals and tell the story that promotes coming and spending time in the downtown. Yeah, Jackie talks to me all the time, like making downtown a destination, both for locals and visitors is what drives increased revenue for small businesses. And so, yes, small businesses is, one part, but the way that we create thriving downtowns is about ensuring community engagement and not recycling, regenerating those partnerships year over year over year. And so this building inventory, yeah, it serves your business mix and infill and housing, et cetera, but it's also about building that leadership and those partnership conversations. It's about celebrating the historic character through anchor institutions and anchor buildings. And many times our anchor buildings might be vacant, but we still love and support them until the time is right with the right opportunity. And so this is about creating a landscape so that when opportunity comes, it's aligned with our history, our character, our assets as we see them, and the storytelling, the promotion that we know speaks to niche customers, and we've curated niche products for that. And so if somebody wants to redevelop the historic theater that's been vacant for 20 years, it should fit into the economic development plan that we know works and we built it together. So all that to say, all that philosophy, because I tend towards that. Yes, we're catalyzing investment for small businesses and building renovations, but it is absolutely about promoting the history and the civic character of a place.
And if I could jump in and just say, like, there's
Yeah.
no reason not to just add them because I mean, you're, I mean, there's been no plans to redevelop City Hall, but it is a building in the district, so and it would probably only take a few minutes to just to have that recorded in the tracker. I think it comes up more when you're talking about your asset map, as opposed to this tool, which is I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Main Street America, but it's really um, looking at like to use as a tool in more development and business and um, like commercial space.
Can also be an asset map because there's an open comments box to put like somebody's story about what they remembered. And so sometimes this can provide enough data for a basic asset map, but it wouldn't involve all of the humanities in an asset map. Mhm.
Can I
Okay,
jump in
that
real quick
that's
So the
too?
chat. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say like another reason to include those properties that aren't considered commercial properties is if you are using it more as a building inventory. So, like historically, I would I think programs have had a building inventory and a business inventory. And this software essentially allows you to have both in one. But if you think of it from the building inventory standpoint, there might be a nonprofit that's downtown in the Main Street district. And if you are, like Miriam said, using this data to advocate for facade grants, well, that nonprofit who owns their building, they might need a facade grant. And so I would also, just to echo, like encourage you to add all of those buildings, even if they're not revenue based, just for data related to the property and the building condition itself.
And the nonprofit might have extra space that it rents out to for-profit business.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it is one
And then you're
o'clock. Sorry. Jackie, did you want to have the last?
No, 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 no. I was just gonna let Miriam know
Yeah,
there were
yeah.
a couple other questions in the chat that I tried to answer in writing, but I just wanted to bring those to her attention.
Sure. For the sake of the recording, Miriam said she'd stay on. So anyone that needs to go, because it's 1 o'clock, feel free to drop off. Um, but yeah, Miriam, if you do have a couple extra minutes to answer those questions, we are recording, and so they'll be available for people going forward.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think what the one I saw was about like absentee landlords or out of state
Mhm.
landlords. She says, well, do you have suggestions for best ways to connect with out-of-state property owners and LLCs without names whose storefronts are vacant? Some don't really care about the community. Um,
Hmm. Oops, pardon me, I clicked something. Since
yeah,
we
and
have pardon me. Mhm.
oh, just want to continue as you're thinking
Yep.
about your response because Jackie did respond in writing in the chat. Main Street
Oh, good.
America
Okay.
is increasingly interested in vacancy ordinances and vacancy taxes to address absentee property owners. There are a growing number of communities who have done this with success. We like to start with a carrot when possible, grants, financial incentives, etc., but sometimes we need the stick as well.
I wouldn't add to what Jackie said, other than the organizing approach of seeing whose grandma might know their mother, and like you can always work the social side or try to, depending on your comfort, to see if you can't bring them into um, a respectful conversation at like a community meeting or something, and just see what they are open to. But yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. We have a lot of absentee owners of vacant buildings, and it's really hard. That's why the stick is something to develop too. Yeah.
And perhaps a little related, talking about the white boxing, who would be bringing the property up to code for white boxing? Would that be the property owner? Jackie did reply in the chat. Typically, yes, makes it easier for them to rent. Sometimes there's a financial partnership between the property owner and the city or even a Main Street program to white box buildings.
Yeah. Sometimes Main Street programs can build up a grant making base so that they have sub grants available for facades or white boxing.
Great. All right, Jackie, did you see anything else that we
I
missed?
did not. I
Okay.
think that covered it.
Anybody else have final questions about the tool? We will share the link to sign up for Booms. I think it is pretty simple at the beginning to create an account and submit your boundaries, right? So sounds like
Mhm.
Cranston's already done that, which is so exciting to hear. Um, and that yeah, there are if you want to go ahead and share them with us ahead of time, we can have it ready for when the population of the parcel data comes in October.
Yeah, you'll want to enter it August into September, but now is the time to start having the conversation. Mhm. Thank you all so much. I'm really delighted by this conversation. I feel like this was really purposeful questions from you all, and we're here all the time. You can email Jillian, email me. There's Booms at Main Street for the technical assistance on the site. We're happy to think with you as well as making sure you get into the tool.
One last question, Miriam. If they sign up for
Yeah.
if they submit, so they sign up for an account, even if they don't submit their boundaries, they can move forward with the business survey, right? The business inventory
Correct.
part of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. Mhm.
Yep. So that can happen before October. Anyone who's
Yes.
ready to get started on that.
And I'll make that my homework. I'll go ask our team for a neutral link that's not connected to any place on their account, a neutral business survey link that anyone can use.
As long as it can be connected to a place later if needed, right?
I believe so, because it'll still get mapped to
Yes,
the
that's what you said.
address. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miriam, and thank you also, Jackie, for being here with us today. Yeah, very excited to move from the theoretical to the tangible, and certainly in my experience working in this world, starting with the inventory of the buildings you have and the businesses that are there, this tool makes it a lot easier because, as we all know, sometimes there may be multiple businesses in one building, or sometimes they have offices on the second floor. Anyway, just so to be able to have a tool to guide you how to keep all of that information organized is fabulous. And we're excited to join the rest of the network in using the tool to strengthen our places. So, um, so yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Jackie, and we will see you next time.